In this episode, we're in the Goldfields of Western Australia, driving the Golden Quest Discovery Trail, where we'll prospect for gold, get ourselves bogged, lose a window, wander through a ghost town, and enjoy some of the most beautiful night skies we've ever seen. Come and join us. Welcome back to another episode of Made to Ramble, and we are today in the town of Coolgardie here in Western Australia at the very beginning of the Golden Quest Discovery Trail. So, find yourself a comfortable seat, put your feet up, grab a beer, let's go. A little armchair travel, starting here in Coolgardie, a small town east of Perth with a population of around 850 people. At least according to Wikipedia. Here you can wander through Ben Pryor Park, a free and fun little spot to bring the kids, and check out some of the remnants of Coolgardie's gold rush history. You can stop by the stately old home of Ward Infinity to enjoy some scones and tea. And there's a free campsite right by the historic Coolgardie railway station. Right near the townsite is a nice spot for a bushwalk where, if you're lucky, you might even see some of the local wildlife. And also in this same area of bushland, you can check out the lookout at Lindsay's Pit, a disused mine site. Alright, so we're on the road now on our way to site number 2. So this is all that's left of site number 2. This is the historic town of Kunanalling, and all that we have here is the Premier Hotel. Now there is a gap in the fence. I would never go through that. That would be a bit naughty. So here we are at site number 3. This is Ora Banda. The historic town of Siberia. Not much to see here either, just some old graves. The historic and now abandoned town of Goongarrie. Not much to see here now either. All that remains is this cottage. Now, I don't want it to sound like we were disappointed here. It's all a little like a scavenger hunt. Half the fun is just finding each new site. We barely stopped to look at Menzies, though it did seem like a lovely town. We spent quite a bit more time at site number 7 though, the Menzies Cemetery. It was kind of fascinating looking at all the old grave sites. Apparently most of the deaths here were from typhoid. And finally we reached our last destination for the day, Niagara Dam. There's free camping here, and it's a pretty nice spot to stretch the legs, though the flies here were driving us mad. We were apparently pretty lucky to get there when there was lots of water though. Much of the time it's pretty dry, I guess. In the morning we headed straight over to Kookynie. This is their famous horse. Back out on the road again, but this time we ran into trouble. So it turns out not all of this track is possible to do in a standard vehicle. This sand is way too soft and we're bogged. So now we're going to try and dig ourselves out. Haven't seen any cars in a while either. Well, it turns out there have been some complications here. Not only are we bogged, but the last time I tried to get us out, I accidentally left the key inside the van and the van locked itself automatically. So there is nobody out here. It is stinking hot. There are a million flies and our only option was to smash a window. Unfortunately, it was very difficult to smash a window and I managed to put my arm through it as well, so ow. And now, of course, the whole front of the car is just full of glass. And we're still bogged. So it took us about 3 hours to dig our way out of the sand there. And unfortunately, because of having a missing window, it meant that we had to drive all the way back to Kalgoorlie just to try and get a new window put in place. Unfortunately, it wasn't possible to do that. And so as a result, they put up plastic. And as you might be able to tell, it's a bit fucking loud. Yeah, that was pretty unbearable. Since we were in Kalgoorlie, which was meant to be the final stop on the trail, we figured we might as well spend a couple of days here and do some sightseeing. We checked out the Super Pit, a huge and still very active mine site. We also spent a few hours at Hannon's North Tourist Mine, which was a bit of fun to wander through.
It's a story of myself 100 years ago and of the great gold rush that happened on this very spot.
What do? Just let the water in. Got a much better technique than you.
You meant to do it like this. You have to pick it out.
back out on the road again, and we started with a quick stop at Broad Arrow for one of their world famous Broadie burgers. Very nice, I must say. And then it was a long drive all the way to Gwalia and the nearby town of Leonora. Gwalia Museum is open from 9 to 4 almost every day of the year. In our case though, we arrived pretty late and didn't get to spend much time there. So yeah, the fly problem here is actually pretty bad. There's an active mine site right next to the museum. You can also camp for free just outside the gates to the museum, up on the hill, overlooking the mine site on one side and the ghost town on the other. The ghost town is beautifully maintained and well worth a wander. I was kind of hoping to do some astrophotography here, but due to both the nearby mine site and the streetlights over the ghost town itself, conditions were not optimal for nighttime photography. It's a shame. Those old cars and houses would have been great foreground subjects. A quick stop at site number 18, Granite Creek, with its many tadpoles and frogs and its population of native budgies. Then over to Snake Hill, which overlooks Lake Ballard, our final stop for the next couple of days. We were both really looking forward to Lake Ballard. So after a couple of false starts there, we did finally get back on the road and on our trail. Unfortunately, we did have to miss a few of the sites along the way just because of changing road conditions, thanks to there having been rain recently. The road that we got bogged on has actually been closed now. It's really only safe to drive on if you've got a four-wheel drive. Wish they'd done that a little bit earlier. Anyway, this is the place we were most excited about visiting because this is an extraordinary place to do a little bit of astrophotography, and it's a really interesting landscape. We've gotten really lucky this time because it also turns out that because of the rain, there's actually water in the lake, which is very rare. So it allows for some interesting photo compositions using the water for reflections. Really cool. Lake Ballard is home to the world's largest outdoor art gallery, with 51 still sculptures spread across 7 kilometres of vast flat salt lake, or at least that's what it says on the australiasgoldenoutback.com website. Apparently a British artist, Antony Gormley, based these sculptures on residents of the nearby town of Menzies. Kind of glad we didn't really stop there now. There are some pretty weird looking people in that town. So from Lake Ballard it was over to site number 21, Ularring Soak, for a nice little walk. And then it was on to the last side of the trail, for us anyway. Our very last stop on the Golden Quest Discovery Trail. And so here we are at our final site, site number 23 I believe. It's called Rowles Lagoon, and there's no water. What an anticlimactic way to finish off our holiday. So now we're on our way back to Perth. Bye for now.